So next on our list we have challah. So this is the enriched dough that we made. And challah traditionally is presented in a braid. So we're going to braid our challah today. So you can see that our dough, nice and proofed. It's a little bit sticky, so I'm just going to put a little bit of flour on my table, scoop my dough out of the bowl. And then we need to portion it. So ultimately we need two 450 gram loaves out of this. So I'm going to turn my scale on. And again, use a bench scraper to cut your dough. You don't want to tear it. So we want to see what our weight is. So mine's a little bit heavy. Still a little bit heavy. There we go. Okay, so we have our two loaves, and what we're going to do is we're going to braid them, and you have two choices. You can braid them both into 3-strand braids, or you can braid one as a 3-strand and one as a 4-strand. If you've never braided before, I definitely recommend you try the 3-strand, and if you don't feel comfortable, move on to the 4. But if you have braided before, the 4-strand is just an interesting way to make it a little bit different. So I'm going to push one of my loaves out of the way for now. And this one, I want to divide into 3 equal portions. So at 450 grams, we're talking about 115 each. What am I saying? 165. So I'm just a little bit heavy on that one. So I'm going to divide it up between the other 2. Move our scale out of the way. Okay, so now we're going to pre-shape by doing a similar thing without the bicycle seat to the baguette. We're just going to take it and roll a nice little snake. And I would suggest you aim for your snake to be just about as long as your scale. Okay, so use your scale as a measuring device. Doesn't need to be really long at this point. So we're going to roll all 3 of those into snakes. So give it a little bit of a pat, make it nice and flat, and then just roll it up into a snake. What's important here is that your seam is nice and sealed, okay? But we're not trying to make a baguette, so don't roll really long. Just try and smooth it out a little bit. There. We'll do one more. You'll notice that I keep picking it up to make sure it's not sticking to the table. And if it is sticking, I'm just putting just a tiny bit of flour down, okay? And then we're going to roll that into a little bit of snake. Make sure that seam's all pinched up nice and tight and that you have a nice, smooth dough. That one got a little bit longer than I had intended, but that's fine because that's what we're going to do with the rest now. Now we're going to aim about the width of the sheet pan for length. Okay, so I'm just going to stretch these out just a little bit more so they're all the same. And you'll notice I always go back to the first one and work my way down the line. Number 2. And number 3 is just a tiny bit short, so I'm just going to stretch that out just a little bit. Okay? Now, what I want to do is I want to put them all to the top and line them up, just one little tab over the other. And then just at the very, very tip of this, I'm going to take my finger and sort of seal it down. Okay? Now, 3-strand braiding is always about taking the outside over the middle. So we're going to start, and you don't want to stretch these as you're braiding. So I'm going to go outside over the middle, and outside over the middle. Outside over the middle, outside over the middle, outside over the middle. Careful not to stretch it as you go along, okay? Outside over the middle, 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 outside over the middle. Okay, and then once you get to the end, line up all three of them again, and same thing, just give a little bit of a press with your finger. Now, I don't want them to be the length of the pan, I want them to be the width of the pan. So I'm going to take that little tab and tuck it under, and that little tab and tuck it under. I'm gently going to pick it up and slide it onto my tray. Okay? And you want to make sure that it's sitting as straight as you can on the tray. That way it'll proof nice and even, but give it a bit of space, okay? So that it has a bit of room to grow. I think I'm going to give mine just a little bit more, to give it a little bit of a nudge. So that's a 3-strand braid. When it's proofed, I'll show you what to do next. Okay, for those of you that are feeling a little bit more adventurous, we're going to do a 4-strand braid with the little bit of dough that I have left. So this means dividing it equally into 4 bits. So at a 450 gram loaf, this is about 110 grams each piece. So I'm going to start by portioning my dough. And then evening it out a little bit, just so that all of my portions are the same. Okay? Now, we're gonna roll some snakes. So, same thing we did before, sort of pat it flat, tuck and roll with your thumbs. Clean up the seam a little bit, because it's important that that seam is nice and sealed. Pop it to the side. Same. Roll it nice and straight. Keep the thickness as even as you can as you're shaping it. You don't want a fat end and a skinny end. Okay, so just a gentle roll there. Give it another quick roll. Pop it to the side. Apparently I'm not very good at rolling short. Okay, one more quick one. There we've got our 4 strands. But what I want to do is I want to make them all about 1.5 the length of your silver scale. So I'm just going to strengthen this one a little bit. A little bit. There we go. So now we're going to lay them out like we did before, top to bottom. I can see this one's just a little bit short, so I just want to give it a little bit more. Just pile them on and just give it a bit of a pinch just right at the top to hold them. Now to help you, I've made some little numbers here. When you're doing a 4-strand braid, in this particular instance, no matter where you move the strands, they're always going to be numbered like this. So if I move number 4 over number here, this is now number 2. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. No matter how I move them, the first one on the left is always number 1. Okay? So to do this one, we're going to take number 4 and put it over number 2. So when you do this, you don't want to stretch the dough, you want to just lift it and be as high as you can. Okay? So number 4 goes over number 2. Then we're going to take number 1, which is now this one, and we're going to put it over number 3. I'm going to make a little bit of room. So I'm going to lift it up nice and high and put it over number 3. Now I'm going to take number 2 and I'm going to twist it over number 3. So just a little bit of a twist. Okay? Then you're going to repeat. So number 4 over number 2. And lift it up nice and high and lay it over top. Then we're going to take number 1 and we're going to put it over number 3. So I'm going to move this one a little bit out of the way. And then I'm going to lift it up nice and high and put it over. And then I'm going to put number 2 over number 3. So I'm just going to give a little bit of a twist. Then we're going to repeat that. So number 4 over number 2, but I'm going to lift it nice and high. Then number 1 over number 3. So lift it nice and high, but don't stretch the dough, just lift it. And then number 2 over number 3. Give a little bit of a twist. Repeat, okay? Number 4 over number 2, lift it nice and high. Number 1 over number 3. And then number 2 over number 3. Give a little twist. Repeat. So number 4 over number 2. Number 1 over number 3. And then 2 over 3. And then I'm just going to fold these over just to finish it off. Now that I have it all, I'm going to pinch all my edges together, just like I did on the top. Move my little numbers out of the way here. And then I want to put it on the tray. So I'm going to just gently pick it up. And you can see here it's sort of a double braid. Okay, it has one on the bottom and one on the top. So you want the one on the bottom to be sitting nice and straight. There we go. So give it enough space from the edge of the pan so that it has room to proof. But remember, we're building these ones widthways. They're not baguettes. So I don't want them to be the length of the pan, I want them to be the width. So we're going to pop those into the proofer. Just tuck that under. And then we'll be back in a minute.